NASCAR officially announces its new media rights deal beginning in 2025, and boy do we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Yo, what's up everyone, my name is Jett. Welcome back to an episode of Inside Lines, the third video of today. If you haven't watched our previous two videos, the first one we talked about NASCAR and horsepower, then later on and earlier this morning we talked about an update with the TV deal, and now we have officially confirmed who is going to be broadcasting NASCAR from 2025 onwards. And what we're going to do from this is look at the good and bad from this deal. Let's first start off with the good. NASCAR will be getting a 40% increase in its revenue beginning in 2025. Now, in the current deal that we're under in, the 10-year deal, they've been getting $820 million a year, but that was over a 10-year period. Now, this new deal is gonna go from 2025 to 2031, 7 years, and NASCAR will be getting an increase of $1.1 billion per year for the new media rights deal. Now, who is going to be broadcasting NASCAR? 4 networks. NASCAR will be on Fox, Turner Sports, TNT, Amazon Prime, and NBC Sports. So let's start off with the good. The good news thing is that I love the fact that NASCAR, they're dipping their toes into streaming with Amazon Prime, and I think that's a wonderful idea. The fact that Amazon Prime has NASCAR and the NFL. You think about of all the other possible sporting events they could have had. They got NASCAR and the NFL. That's a pretty cool class to be in. NASCAR back on TNT Sports. 5 races will be airing on TNT, very similar to their Summer Series program. So that's some nostalgic feel for you there. But let's first start off with the good. All right. The good is, like I said, increase in media rights. They're going to get a lot more money per year than they've gotten in the past. $828 million to now $1.1 billion. And I love the fact that, again, they're really trying to cater to that younger audience. And I think NASCAR, this new TV deal is in preparation for the future, because if you really look at it, it is heavy on streaming. Here's an interesting thing that you will probably not know is that majority of practice and qualifying you're not going to see, at least for the first half of the year. Amazon Prime will be carrying practice and qualifying except for the Clash practice or Clash exhibition race, the Daytona 500, and the All-Star race. Those are the only events that will be having practice and qualifying on FS1. That is it. But then the interesting thing about this is that in the second half of the season, Turner Sports will be doing majority, in fact, all of practice and qualifying. So let's think about this. Clash, practice and qualifying, Daytona 500 practice and qualifying, and the All-Star race practice and qualifying will be on FS1 or /Fox. I don't know how that schedule works, but it'll be on Fox Sports. Outside of that, for the first half of the year, practice and qualifying will be exclusively on Amazon Prime. The second half of the year will be exclusively on Turner Sports, on True TV. So True TV, they're in NASCAR. It's a weird thing to say, but True TV and HBO Max will be simulcasting practice and qualifying for the second half of the season. So this package is extremely stream heavy, with not only almost all of practice and qualifying being behind a paywall, being behind Amazon Prime / True TV, HBO Max, but also you have Turner Sports with TNT having 5 races that will be simulcast. TNT will be airing 5 races that will air both on Bleacher Report Live as well as HBO Max. And I love that. I think that's a great thing to have it being available across 3 different channels. And Amazon Prime, they'll be also having 5 races during that 10-week mid-season package. The bad part about this is for traditional TV. I told you this was streaming heavy. It's also cable heavy. We already talked about with TNT, they're having 5 races on their network. Let's look at Fox Sports. Fox will have 5 races air on network television. 10 of them, if you include the All-Star race and the Clash, will be on FS1. So only 5 races on network television and 10 will be on cable. Then when you look at NBC's portion, only 4 races are going to be on network television and 10 will be on cable on the USA network. So when you really think about it, NASCAR is only going to be on 3 network races during the playoffs. So you could maybe look at the last 3 races of the playoffs be on network television and maybe the regular season finale at Daytona. That's it. That's the part I am not a fan of, because NASCAR still has a really old fan base, and also a lot of those eyeballs are on network television. And it's shocking to me because I remember NASCAR was saying that they were hell-bent on trying to get as many network races on their sport as possible, working with Fox and NBC to get as many races on network television. To then go from that to now only 9 races on network television the entire season, it's a disappointment. And I understand NASCAR's philosophy. They're preparing for the future. 2031, who knows where it could be? More than likely, streaming will continue to grow, and cable will continue to go down. But if that's the case, then airing majority of your events on cable, I am not a real fan of that. If you also want to know, the Xfinity Series, like I said earlier, will be on the CW, and the Truck Series, unfortunately, will be back on Fox on FS1. That's probably the worst part of the deal, is that the Truck Series will still be on Fox. Another bad part of it, Fox will still be airing the Daytona 500 for at least the next 7 years, which is also sad. I would love to see NBC air the 500, so it's disappointing to hear that Fox will be getting the 500 for the next 7 years. But overall, how would I view this deal? It's a deal that it makes sense. On one side, it makes sense from a business side. NASCAR got what they wanted, and that was a heavier increase in media rights. Again, they went from getting $820 million a year to now they're going to be getting $1.1 billion a year. But it takes me back to like the mid to late 90s when NASCAR was airing on like 5 or 6 different channels. I mean, you have to understand, for the next 7 years, the NASCAR Cup Series will be across these channels: Fox, FS1, NBC, USA, True TV, TNT, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime. I mean, that is a whole lot of different distribution channels and all of that stuff. The part that I'm real interested in wanting to understand on how this will play out down the line is how will this be viewed at from, of course, the younger demographic? Because the whole reason why this is so streaming heavy is to bring in that younger audience. And Warner Brothers Discovery even mentioned during the press conference that they had regarding this announcement that Bleacher Report and House of Highlights will be a prominent role in promoting NASCAR. So that's something that's that's intriguing to me as to, okay, these are channels and platforms that really cater to those younger, maybe audiences that maybe aren't familiar with NASCAR. How will that play out down the line when we get to the end of this media rights deal? The part that I'm interested though in also learning is that because there's only 9 races going to be on network television, how will that play out with the schedule? Because look at Fox, for example. Okay, you know the Daytona 500, Talladega, they're going to be on network television, but where would you put the other 3 races? You then think about, okay, probably the Clash. All right, well, 2 more. What would you do? Maybe Easter night at Richmond if we're going by the 2024 schedule, which races would you select? Look at NBC. They aren't getting 4 races. Okay, so I talked about Daytona season finale, the championship race, Talladega. All right, well, what's your 4th one going to be? Would the street race move to NBC schedule? Or could we maybe see the street race be behind, Amazon Prime or behind TNT? Like, how would NASCAR break out the schedule? And how will they do it in the way that makes sure that the biggest races are in front of as many eyeballs as possible? Like, which races would get, you can put that on Prime or put that behind the paywall? Because you have to understand that NASCAR has to make sure that all networks get, I want to say, an even amount of exposure, but you're not going to, I don't think NASCAR is going to put all the boring races on Prime. I'm pretty sure Prime, because they're investing a lot of money, same thing with Turner Sports, they're going to be like, hey, we want a big race. We want the street race, or I don't know, we want Atlanta. I don't know. I'm just throwing out names, but it's going to be real interesting as to see how NASCAR breaks down the 2025 schedule to make sure that every single network gets that big race. Fox has the Daytona 500. NBC has a championship race. Okay, what would TNT get? Would they get the street race? What would Prime get? Would they get an international race? How is it going to break out? That is something I'm interested in seeing. So overall, we talked about the good and the bad of this package. How do I look at it? I can't give a clear answer. I can't, because at the beginning, right now, not a fan of it. The only thing I'm not a fan of is that it's very cable heavy. If it was, let's say, 10 races on Fox, 5 races on FS1, and 10 races on NBC, 4 on the USA Network, then I would say this is a perfect package. But with it being so cable heavy, and we're already cord cutting, we're cord cutting so much, for it to be that cable heavy is something I am not a fan of. And it's also going to take a lot of time to get used to when you consider the fact that, again, practice and qualifying for the first half is all going to be on Prime. The second half is either going to be on True TV and HBO Max. Very streaming heavy, very cable heavy, a lot of money, and it's prepping the sport for the future. Stepping stones. Even Amazon Prime, they were even talking about 7-year plus. They're already even talking about renewals with NASCAR. So at least that part's a good idea. That part sounds good, that they're already thinking even past 2031. I think NASCAR, they're looking beyond 2031. They're looking at where can we take this package so that it's still relevant in 2031. If you look at the current deal that we're under right now, it was basically dead halfway into it. Majority of the races in 2013 or 2015 should say, were focusing on those cable channels of FS1 and then NBCSN. By the end of it, NBCSN shut down. So NASCAR's deal that we're under right now was irrelevant halfway into it. And I think NASCAR, with them being so streaming heavy, is trying to prepare themselves so that by 2031, that deal is still relevant, if that makes sense, that it's not considered old or considered, in the Stone Age. I don't know, just throwing out examples that they want to be able so that their deal remains fresh by the end of it. And also, having a relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime right now, just dipping your toes into it, depending on how this relationship goes, could mean big things for NASCAR in 2032. So yeah, there's overall some good things about this package, but then there are also some things I'm just like, I don't know. You scratch your head at that. I didn't even think about it, but also, where would the Brickyard 400 air? I mean, I don't know. I just think, man, who knows? Maybe down the line it will change it up, because if you look at 2015, NBC was very cable heavy. And by the end of it, it became more network heavy. I don't know how I feel about this deal. This deal is weird. I understand what NASCAR is doing and it's setting up for the future. I get that, but I don't know. With it being so cable heavy and so many different networks that are airing the races, guarantee, yes, I just mentioned the channels or the networks that are going to be airing NASCAR. That is a lot of networks. So there's a lot of ways to distribute NASCAR. I get that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you think fans are going to keep up with all of these changes? You go from Fox to FS1 to then HBO Max, or to then TNT to then Prime. Oh, qualifying, True TV. I don't know. I'm real interested into seeing how all this plays out, but I don't know if I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with this deal. I hope it works out, but I just don't feel comfortable with this deal. But to end it off, the thing I am curious and excited about is having two new companies. Well, one returning, but having Prime and TNT come in, a completely different TNT Sports coming into play, is how are they going to present NASCAR? How different are they going to present NASCAR? And maybe present it in a way that will force a company like Fox to take NASCAR seriously, because one thing I don't like is that Fox is still here, even though they have proven that they don't really care about NASCAR. At least if you see how they broadcast races, you think they didn't give a damn about NASCAR. So I'm curious as to see how the networks will approach NASCAR with this new TV deal. And I'm also interested as to how much of a role NASCAR in general will have. Remember, NASCAR is taking over the productions with the CW, with the Xfinity series. They're going to have their cameras, whatever. They're going to do an F1 style. How much of a role would they have maybe with the Cup series? I mean, again, Prime is only going to be airing 5 races. Are they going to be sending out their guys, for practice and qualifying for Atlanta, Bristol, for those races? Or is NASCAR going to take control of it and they just air it out to Prime? How is all that going to play out? So it's weird. Again, I can't say I love it, because parts of the deal I do love, and then some parts of the deal I'm like, is that really the best move? I don't know. But what are your thoughts about it? What parts do you like about this new deal? What parts do you not like about it? And how do you think this will affect NASCAR when this deal takes place in 2025? And how do you think this will affect NASCAR by the end in 2031?